survey. For more, I'm joined by Illinois Democratic Congresswoman Sherry Bustos, a rising star in the Democratic Party. Also, Yamiche Alcindor, White House correspondent for the PBS NewsHour, and Charlie Sykes, contributing editor at the Weekly Standard. I want all three of you, starting with Congresswoman Bustos, to tell us how the Democrats react to what looks to be a cri de guerre, a loud scream of fear and fright from Donald Trump that they're coming through the gates, and the Democrats are welcoming them in as illegal immigrants by the thousands. What the Democratic leadership should they be saying to the American voter at this moment? Congresswoman.
Well, first of all, Chris, Donald Trump is the master distractor. Here we are 15 days out from this election. We've got Democrats all over the country who are some of the sharpest candidates I have ever seen in my political lifetime. They're running scared, and what do they do when they're running scared? They resort to fear tactics, and that's what's happening. What we need to stay focused on is the legislation that we will do once we win back the majority. That's number one, bring down the cost of health care and prescription drug prices. We will rebuild this country with a real trillion-dollar infrastructure package, not a fake one like the president introduced. And number three, we're going to make Washington functional again. We're going to address the dysfunction in Washington, the self-dealing, the money in politics, and we will. As soon as we win back the majority, we just have to make sure that we continue to do our best to earn the trust of the American public again.
What can you do if you can't win back the Senate?
Well, I'm staying focused on the House because that's where I serve. I think the Senate, it's tough, but we've got some tremendous candidates. Kirsten Sinema in Arizona, Jackie Rosen in Nevada. I love Beto O'Rourke in Texas. It's a tough one, but look at the kind of campaign he's running. Right now, my role at the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee is as Heartland Engagement Chair. So I am working with candidates running in 12, mostly Midwestern states. We've also included West Virginia and Pennsylvania in there. And Chris, these candidates are going to change the way Congress does business. They're not going to have anybody tell them what to do. They're going to stay focused on the 700-ish thousand people that they'll represent, and we're going to get the nation's work done again.
Yamiche, your thoughts about what the Congresswoman just said, the battle of her offering what the Democrats will do if they regain the Congress. They have to get the presidency back, too, ultimately, to get a bill signed, against the fear of the president, which he's talking about the mob at the gate. Well, basically, it's what he's going to do for the next 2 weeks. We know it now.
I was just out in West Virginia, and it's the nature of the Democrats to say we need to talk to people and welcome people who are fleeing violence, who are fleeing poverty. So in fact, the problem is, of course, that this caravan is the worst possible time for Democrats for this to be happening politically, because they're going to show up on the gates of the United States right when people are voting. So they're going to be on people's minds. And the president, of course, has had this hardline immigration policy.
Can you discern? I'm going to go back to the Congresswoman. What is the Democratic response to these people? They are in need. They are afraid. They're coming here. What's the Democratic proposal? If you ran the entire U.S. government right now, the Democratic Party, what would they do when these people reach our gate, our border? What would they do? What should we do?
Well, they're seeking refuge. Donald Trump is once again. Well, you give them a path to make sure that they can have safety. You know, these are people that are seeking rapes and murders and gang violence. And the president's claim that this is the gangs themselves in the middle of all of this, and there's so-called Middle Easterners in the middle of all this. As you said in your opener, Chris, that's been refuted. It is not true. We have a president who likes to peddle in mistruths and is peddling fear once again. We can't just not have an answer to that, but the answer is that we've been a country for 250, almost 50 years, where if people are seeking refuge, escaping violence and murders and rapes, that we are a country that has helped people like that. Do we need to have strong borders? Absolutely. And do we need to keep out anybody who's a criminal? Absolutely. But we also ought to be a country that lives in a way that we're compassionate, that we help people, and we'll keep out the violent criminals. That's not what we want to welcome into this country.
But that's very moral, and I'm supporting that in all moral terms. Charlie, I want to bring you in here. How's that going to sell, what you just heard?
Well, I think they need to get a better message there.
Moral
because,
case.
First of all, this is This is exactly the campaign that Donald Trump wants to run. If he is the executive producer of the reality TV show of the midterm elections, this caravan is something that he would have come up with. He would have scripted it in this particular way. And I think what the Democrats have got to do is they have to make it clear, number one, what their response is, that we, in fact, do have borders, that we can be humane, that we don't need to demagogue this issue, but that our border enforcement will be able to handle this, that this is not a threat. You know, these women and children are not a national emergency, but they also have to make it clear that, no, they are not, as Donald Trump wants people to believe, for open borders.
That's the problem. Yamiche, are they making that clear? You hear the Democrats with a clarion statement they're not for open borders. Do you hear that?
I just came back from California and West Virginia, and the Democratic candidates that I'm following say that. But what voters here are that they want an open border, because what Representative Bustos says, and she's not wrong in the idea that America should welcome people, that there should be people, if you're fleeing violence and rape, that you should be welcome into this country. But there are a lot of people who look at these people and say they're going to take over our country. This is why we don't want them.
Congresswoman, let me play partisan Democrat for a minute and give you an example of what and the old school guys like me would do. We would say we had a comprehensive bill that was about border protection. It was about illegal hiring. You can't hire somebody illegally who comes into the country. You can't do it. They're not documented. Fact. That all went over to the House, and the Republican speaker at the time said, we're not even going to vote on it. Boehner, not even going to vote on it. But the Democrats had a bill with it supported 12 Republican senators. You have a comprehensive border program. You had one. They won't pass one. Number two, Mitch McConnell came out this last week and said, I'm going after Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. It's not just a pre-existing issue. He's going over the whole shebang. After passing the biggest tax cut for the rich in history, and he's going to pay for that by cutting into the middle-class programs that they've paid for their whole lives. That's the scream I would do out there. I think the Democrats are too calm about this. They don't know how to yell back at Trump with scarier stuff than he throws, because it's truly scary when Mitch McConnell, in his calm little way, says we got to go after Medicare, Medicaid, and Medicare, and we're going to do it to save money because we blew all the money on the tax cut, and it doesn't even come up with the Democrats. I don't understand why you guys don't know how to exploit an obvious opportunity when some fool on the other side gives it to you. Trump knows how to exploit. Boy, does he. I shouldn't be yelling, but I'm old school. I just know how to do it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Hey, Chris, if you came to this part of the country, and I'm sitting in Peoria, Illinois right now, if you came to this part of the country, you would hear the candidates that are running for House all over the Midwest, in Illinois, in Iowa, in Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, all over the place. You would hear them saying exactly what you just said. We know what Mitch McConnell said, and we also know that that was the Republican playbook. Pass this tax scam, increase the debt by $2 trillion, and then, oh my gosh, let's scream bloody murder. Now we're going to have to go over so-called entitlements.
Oh, we care about deficits
so we
now.
are saying
all of a sudden they care about deficits. God, I'm sorry. Tell us the message. I don't want to get in your way. What's the best Democratic argument to get people to vote Democrat this 2 weeks from tomorrow?
It's exactly what you just said. We are yelling and screaming in a polite Midwestern way about what Mitch McConnell said. He wants to now address this $2 trillion debt on the backs of seniors who are recipients of Social Security, our parents and our grandparents who are on Medicare. And that's his answer to this $2 trillion debt now. We're talking about in every single one of these races that we're running all throughout the country. And so maybe it's not coming from Washington, D.C. constantly, but it is here in Peoria, Illinois. It's in Dubuque, Iowa. It's in Kentucky. It's in southern Illinois. It's all over the place.